Hello, boils and ghouls. Irish Blackstone here with episode 3 of Behind the Keyboard, my interview series with horror authors. Today's episode, we have Tim Meyer, author of Dead Daughters, Kill, the, Kill Hill Carnage, and Paradise Club. Enjoy.
Your latest release, Paradise Club. Come on, tell us all about it.
Oh man, so the story is basically about a family that wins a trip to a resort on a private island along with a bunch of other people. And once they get there, they find out that they're kind of pawns for this really big game, which is basically like a battle royale, free for all, kill everybody type of game. And they basically just have to survive the event that happens. It started off as an idea I had a few years back, and I wanted to write it as like a serialized novel, do it in episodes and release episodes, episodically. When that was a big thing on Amazon, people were, putting out like 20-page little episodes and then kind of bundling together. So I had the idea back when that was a big thing, but I just never wrote it. I never got around to writing it. Other ideas kind of got in the way of doing it. And then a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to start a Patreon because I thought, why not? It's another avenue to get my stuff out there. And I wanted to do something kind of cool that a lot of other people weren't doing on their Patreons. So I took the opportunity to do like a choose your own adventure type thing, but with like a group involved. So basically, if you signed up for the Patreon and, put up however much it was that, monthly, I think it was like a couple bucks, you could actually vote on the character's actions. So it'd be like, oh, so and so comes to a door, he goes right or left type of thing. If you remember reading those novels when you were a kid, I used to love those. Like, oh man, those were the best. So I kind of wanted to do something like that, but like with a group, so everybody got to vote on it, and then majority won, and they would kind of help influence the characters and how they navigated through that battle royale setting. Um, and so that's kind of what it was. I had like a loose outline for it, and I kind of just followed that, and then whatever happened kind of just happened. And eventually, when it ended, about 80,000 words later, yeah, didn't know what to do with it. Patreon wasn't really working for me, so I just decided to put it out. And Grindhouse Press, I approached them because they had done my other book, Limbs, earlier the year before. So yeah, I pitched it to Carrie, and she wanted to publish it. So that's kind of how the whole thing came about.
Okay, and I mean, the cover. The cover is great. I'll admit,
Yeah.
the covers for everything you've got out is really good. Like, my favorite cover is, from your stuff is Kill Hill Carnage. That cover just,
Love that cover.
Yeah, it reminds me.
I have a poster of it.
Oh, you bastard. Sorry. I suppose if you're going to have a poster of any book covers from anything of yours, it would have to be that one.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Yeah, I remember seeing the cover for the first time for Kill Hill Carnage. It's just instantly thinking it was very, that style reminds me of something from the 80s, like Army of Darkness, that sort of stuff. And the cover for Paradise Club, it's completely different to all the other covers for your work. You look at the cover for Limbs or 69, the Switch House, even Dead Daughters, both versions of Dead Daughters. Paradise Club just seems so happy.
Yeah, it does. And that's what's kind of funny about it, because Scott Cole did the cover for it, by the way, and he's a fantastic designer. He's done a bunch of stuff for Grindhouse and a bunch of other authors. But yeah, he kind of asked me like what I had for an idea, and I was like, I don't know, kind of just like a happy like 80s sitcom that would like take place on a resort island somewhere, with like pink lettering, because I like that whole like turquoise and pink, like very 80s vibe. And he like nailed it on the first. That was his first attempt at it too. And like I'm usually not too picky either, because I like the art. I like to give like a loose concept, and I like the cover artist to just do whatever and let them do what they're good at. Creating the art. I don't like to be like too involved or too nitpicky or send it back 50 times and have them redo it. Like I'm not like that at all, and it's worked out because like you mentioned, I like am in love with all the cover art that I've ever gotten. So yeah, he nailed the Paradise Club one. I love that cover.
Oh yeah, and I mean, when you think of horror books, all the covers are very dark, very sinister. So for you to come out with Paradise Club with that 80s TV show Fantasy Island style,
kind of exactly like that.
It kind of breaks the mold.
Yeah, it definitely stands out, and that's a good thing too. Like you said, I mean, a lot of the horror covers are dark or even there's like blood and stuff on the covers. Like this has none of that, and it has a skull, which is like a cool horror imagery. So it's a horror novel by looking at it. But it's got like the very bright, in your face, almost like romancy type of cover, which I think works for the book because it all takes place during the day when the sun's out, which is again not something that always happens in horror.
And I was going to ask about that. Was that on purpose to have it set all during the day or just by accident?
I think it just I mean, kind of. So like the original concept was it was supposed to take place over, weeks or so. This kind of takes place all in one day. Takes place basically. They get to the island and then the next morning the game kind of starts and it just runs throughout the day. And I think by the end of the novel, it's like it gets dark. But the majority of the novel takes place, during the day, and it's not really, I guess, by choice. But also it just kind of worked out that way because I just decided I wanted it all to take place in one single day and not, drag it out.
Yeah. Okay. And you said that you had a very short, small outline for Paradise Club. Is that how you normally go about with with your writing? Is it just like a very short little outline and then it just grows naturally, or do you take do you spend months and months outlining every minute detail and then you hate your story so you throw it out and start again? I mean, what's your process?
It's so weird. Like I wish I had one process. For me, like every book comes about differently. I don't know if other writers do that. I know at least the ones I talk to, they usually have some sort of process in place. Like I do an outline, do a first draft, done, or I don't do an outline, I just wing it and then do multiple drafts. Like I've done like every variation of like the process, and it's just like every time out is like a different thing. So for this one, like I said, I had like a rough outline, and that was kind of it. For novels like Kill Carnage was actually outlined. I had like a chapter by chapter breakdown of how I wanted it to play out. But like the Switch House, I had just kind of the idea and I just wrote. I didn't have any outline for that. 69, same thing. Limbs, same thing. I just kind of had the idea and wrote. But yeah, I mean it's different. I mean, I wrote a dinosaur western last year for NaNoWriMo, which I'm really in love with, and I hope I can sell it somewhere because I really love that little book. But for that, NaNoWriMo, you have to write 50,000 words in 1 month, so outlining is very beneficial. So you go into each day knowing what you're going to write, and I had no idea what I was going to write. I basically wrote like one or two word, like just one or two words for each little chapter.
Yep.
And that was it. That's all I had. So so when I was getting to the end, I kind of forgot like the idea that was in my mind for stuff at the end of the book. So I was like, what the hell does this even mean? And I ended up having to like rearrange some of this stuff. So but yeah, I mean that I wrote 70,000 words back in November. In that 1 month, yeah, and I was able to crank out that dinosaur western. So I did a second draft a couple months later, and I'll probably do a third, maybe a fourth draft, and maybe next year try to sell it. So But yeah, I mean, it's so weird. I wish I could get into one process, but it's been different for each time out.
Oh, well, if it works, don't break. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It seems to work for you.
Most of the time. I mean, I also have a lot of false starts too. So there's times where I'll get 30,000 words into something and be like, I don't want to write this anymore. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I tried to earlier in the pandemic, I started writing a dark fantasy novel, which was way different than my usual stuff. And I got 40,000 words into it, and I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to write this anymore. I don't know. The story there's something about the story. It just wasn't grabbing me. I even tried to go back and start fixing things. And I feel like that's a novel that I'm going to have to sit down, dissect, break it down, and write a thorough outline.
Yeah.
Otherwise it'll never get written. I don't think I can wing that one,
I mean, you could always, I've done this where I've put on for example, mine, Kaiju World for Civic Press. I had Jurassic Park and Pacific Rim on constant play, and not the soundtrack, but the actual movies. So, that's an option. If you're going to do dark fantasy, just have the original Conan the Barbarian on repeat. There
you go. Yeah. That's a good idea. What about you? What's your process? Do you have a
Oh, fuck. My process, it basically ranges from very similar to you. It depends. Generally, I do have an outline, and the outline usually goes as a couple of sentences per chapter, just so I know where I'm heading. Because I used to go full, winging it, and this was back when I was writing movie scripts. And when I switched to novels, I couldn't do it. There was too much I had to keep track of. And for example, my latest, Valley of Bicho, I wrote that for NaNoWriMo, 50,000 words, hit it, finished it, and then set it aside for about 2 days and started rereading and just realized this is 50,000 words of pure shit. So, everything was shit. Everything was bad. So I just kind of went, okay, screw it, threw it out, re-outlined, and then, kind of, because I tried to make it more complicated than that story had to be. Yeah. That was the problem. And right now, it's basically, for example, I've got a couple of ideas, and basically these ideas come from, my ideas come from TV and movies, basically doing mashups. For example, one I want to write is basically taking Sons of Anarchy and putting it in a post-apocalyptic world.
There you go.
That's where it comes from, and then figuring, okay, so that's my elevator pitch. How the hell am I going to write this? How the hell am I going to make it work? And that's why I have to outline. And basically, once I've got the main, that idea, everything okay?
Yeah. You might hear my kid screaming in the background.
Okay. All right. I thought that was just sound effects you were adding.
No, that's my literal kid just screaming because he's like that.
Oh, okay. All right. If you need to go and take care of him at any point,
no, my wife's out there.
Okay, all right. This is daddy time. See, for me, once I come up with that main idea, I then spend maybe more time. I outline fast. I spend more of my time coming up with a soundtrack to listen to. That's where I spend most of the time.
So you write to soundtracks?
Yeah, well, for example, the Valley of Bicho, that was written to AC/DC, completely to AC/DC. And that's just because it coincided with the release of their latest album last year when I was writing it. So I was like, yeah, I'll start writing it. I'll start listening to it. And I just went, yep, that's the rhythm of the book right there.
That's awesome. And yeah, I do the same thing. I listen to music while I write. I like to listen to a lot of film scores too, instrumental stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, I used to listen to that. Now I'm just like, whatever comes up that I think works, it's going to be it. For example, right now I'm working on a book called Zombie Nazis on a Train, and everyone loves the title. I think it's the best title I've ever come up with. And the soundtrack for that is Rammstein and megahertz and industrial German metal. yeah,
that's awesome.
And I'm now just focusing more on, okay, whatever music fits the bill, that's what I'll write to. If it's a soundtrack, fan-fucking-tastic. If it's bands, okay, so be it. I can't write in silence. I need noise.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I need something there just in the background, just playing.
Yeah, I mean,
As you can hear, my house is noisy, so I need something to block out the screaming.
oh man, I live in a ancient ass apartment, and my neighbors, they'll play music, and I mean, luckily my headset blocks a lot of noise, but when they play music loud, and they do play it loud,
Yeah.
you know, my apartment shakes from the vibrations of their bed. You know, it's like that sort of thing. So it does help at times to have that constant noise. Other times, it's a pain in the ass. The joys of Mexico.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah. So okay. You know, I first heard about you from, you know, the Mando method, listening to, you know, Man Rosmelia and Chuck Buda, you know, constantly being jealous of you.
Oh God.
So you've written for, you know, you're a part of the Beers and Fears, you know, you're part of the Beers and Fears tour. You've written for, you wrote a short story for the collection they put out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you prefer short stories, or do you prefer writing full length novels?
I think for me, it's novels. I like the length. Short stories for me is like it's super hard. I find it more difficult to write because you have like usually like a limit, you know.
Yep.
A lot of the short stories I write are for like open calls or when a publisher asks for a short story. So I usually have a limit that I have to stay in, and that kind of feels limiting to me. Where a novel, I can just be like whatever I want to do, and
Yep.
there's like it's like the reins are off, and I'm free. Uh, but yeah, I mean, short stories definitely an art form. Definitely takes more skill, I think, to write than a novel. So, novel for me.
I totally understand. I you know, for me, a short story for me is 10,000 words. Anything under 10,000 words, I'm not going to try to, you know, it may be 5,000. Anything under 5,000 words, I will not attempt to write, because I know instinctively I'll want to add more and more and more to it.
Yeah.
You know, um, I don't know if you ever had that problem of writing a short story for a open call and then realizing, hang on, I've got enough ideas to do a full novel, or at least a novella.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times actually. And unfortunately, like those stories sold, so I was like, oh, if I kind of wished like they had gotten rejected, because I would have liked to make a like a novella or something out of it, something a little bit longer.
Yep.
But it happens.
Oh yeah, and I mean that I asked JC Walsh the exact same question when I spoke to him. How'd you become part of the, you know, the Mando Mafia, for lack of a better term?
So that's a funny story. Guess it was about I want to say like 2016. Sounds about right. Or either I think it's 2016. I'd gone down to Scares That Care in Virginia, Williamsburg. And that was like the first time I'd ever gotten down there. And funny story, somehow I ended up in the celebrity room selling books because I had met Ronald Malfi. I don't know if you're familiar with him and his work. I'd met him and I'd started talking to him, and like randomly he was just like, hey, I gotta leave early tomorrow. It was Saturday night. He's like, I gotta leave early tomorrow morning, and my celebrity room table is gonna be open. You want to sit down there and just sell your books? I'm like, of course. So he left. I took his spot, and I'm just like, I'm super nervous because like I that was the first convention I had ever done. You know, I wasn't really like a name. I mean, nobody knew who I was.
Yep.
So it was like super nerve wracking. And Chuck, actually, who was just there as just, you know, someone, you know, buying lots of books and trying to, you know, learn, because he was, I think, just starting out around that time, where he had a couple things that he put out himself. And we just got to talking, and we found out that we're both from New Jersey. We both live in New Jersey, like an hour and a half away. And we just kind of, you know, became really good friends. And he had known Armand. Armand kind of, took him under his wing, so to speak, and kind of was like his little mentor. So, the three of us kind of got together, and then Mr. Frank, whom I'm sure you've heard of, mentioned on the show quite a lot. He's also from New Jersey. So like the four of us all being from New Jersey. Armand lives in Florida now, but he was originally from New Jersey. So like all four of us just being from New Jersey, like living within an hour and a half from each other, we kind of just formed like a little rat pack.
I know. Don't call yourself the rat pack. You're Jersey boys. Let's just call it what it is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay. So, back in 2016, you say you weren't a celebrity, or you weren't as well known. Now, though, you've made a name for yourself now.
I guess. I don't know. I still feel weird about like saying that. I still feel like I'm not, because I struggle with like imposter syndrome, and dealing with that when it's just weird to me. I'm much too humble, and I don't have a very high opinion of myself, or my writing. So it's hard for me to like be like, oh yeah, I'm a name now. That sounds terrible, right? But I do think like my stuff is getting out there more nowadays, which is cool. Definitely book sales have been, up from what they were 4 years ago. So like I'm progressing. I still think I have a lot to learn as like a writer who's just constantly wanting to learn more and get better at the craft. And I still think I have a lot to accomplish. And I'm just trying to grow as a writer. I still feel like I'll always be doing that. It'll never be a time I'm like I'm satisfied with how I am. Just gonna be always working on it, and just try to entertain as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, totally agree with that idea. I mean, I'm the same. When it comes to my writing, I'm terrible at talking about it in a good way.
Same. Yeah.
And as far as being humble goes, same thing. So that proves that you're a true writer. You are a proper writer. You're humble, and you hate your work.
Yeah, I do. I hate myself.
Let's wait a little bit. We'll get into the psychology part of the interview later, okay? I will dissect your brain a little later, okay?
Nice.
But I mean, compared to 2016 and to now, what's been the biggest thing you've learned?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot, but now that you're like, what did you learn?
Just the most important thing. The thing for you that's like, if I didn't learn this, I would be shit no matter what.
I mean, honestly, as a writer, from a writing standpoint, I mean, just continuing to pump out as much content as you can, because I always fear that there's going to be a day where I don't have any ideas or something. So I got to keep, going in that regard, and just keep writing. Try to write every day. As far as like, trying to get my stuff out there, it's just like making connections with people, I think, has been such a huge thing. And like that 2016 story is a perfect example. I mean, I met Malfi for all of like 10 minutes, and we just kind of like hit it off, and he offered me his celebrity table, which probably wasn't a big thing to him, but I mean, for me at the time, it was huge. So it's just like making connections with writers, readers, reviewers, people on social media, and just being nice to as many people as they can, even if they don't deserve it all the time. Just kidding. just joking.
Okay, I was going to ask, who's the biggest douche in horror? But if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to.
I'm going to go with me, because I hate myself. But yeah, like I think just making connections is so huge, and that's my answer.
No, actually, that's a good answer. I mean, if I hadn't been published by Seventh Press, I wouldn't have gotten to know you or any of the other great authors. And getting to know you when you actually, I think you were my very first interview I ever did was with you for that little blog tour.
Yeah.
You know, and all that. And yeah, the horror community, especially for indie horror writers, it's really good. And the horror community itself is good as
Yeah.
well. What do you think about, when infighting happens, or when there's, a scandal? I mean, or when you hear about some author, whether he's indie or traditionally published,
Mhm.
who, all of a sudden says something and the world turns against them.
I don't know, man. I try to stay out of that.
You do your own thing, and
Yeah, I mean, I try to, listen, it does happen. It's, stuff does happen out there. But I think it's, for me, it's important to, assess the situation and just see what happened. And if, if fighting happens, I tend to just like go my own way. Like I don't try to get involved in it at all.
yeah,
I mean, unless it's something like, obviously blatantly wrong, then you got to stick up for the people who were wronged.
yeah.
But I mean, if it's just some people squabbling over something stupid, like you gave my book a 1-star review and I shut it all out. I'm like, I don't care. But
Yeah, petty shit.
yeah, petty stuff I stay away from. But like I said, I mean, if someone, was harassed, or, it's racism, like you got to
Yeah.
stand up for that stuff, and that stuff's important to combat. But stupid petty stuff, I just stay away from.
And same thing, petty stuff, stay away from. I have a little chuckle at it because, really they're talking about this on the internet, where it's going to be there forever, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. Yeah, life's too short, man, to get involved with petty stuff. I just, I write, and I like to tell stories, and that's kind of like why I'm on these social networks in the first place. So like anything extracurricular, I'm just like not into it.
Yeah. Nah, I get it. So, so ignoring all the, all the political bullshit that happens in the horror community,
Yeah.
and all that stuff, what inspires you? I mean, like, you look at your bibliography, and it's all completely different stories. You can tell certain author, but you can hear a plot of a book and go, yeah, I know who that author is. Because they write very similar stuff. But you're all over the place. So
Yeah.
what inspires you?
I think I get inspired just from a lot of different sources. I don't think it's just, one specific source. I mean, I'm big into music, as I'm sure you are, since you write to music.
Yeah.
And I write to music. So like I get a lot of inspiration from music. I listen to pretty much everything. I mean, I'm a big metalhead, so I listen to like a lot of melodic death metal and stuff like that. But I also like, hip hop. I like, classical music.
Mhm.
I like jazz. I like, even pop, like dance pop music. I listen to pretty much everything. Not a huge country music fan, but even though like I'll listen to Johnny Cash on occasion because I like him. So
Johnny Cash is not country music. He's
I know
he's his own genre. It's just
he is. Yeah, he's like Joe R. Lansdale. Joe R. Lansdale doesn't write just crime or horror. He writes Joe R. Lansdale books, and that's the way like Johnny Cash is.
Yep.
But yeah, like I listen to so many different things, and I think I get a lot of inspiration from music. Also movies. I grew up a big movie buff. Still am a big movie buff. I love movies. And books that influenced me growing up. I grew up reading Goosebumps. That was kind of like my introduction to like horror, basically. Because I grew up in a house that kind of didn't allow horror movies in it, so like I had to sneak my horror in when you're at a friend's house and you're having a sleepover, and you watch like the Friday the 13th movies and,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That was like my only exposure to horror movies, like really young. I think like the first horror movie I actually got to watch was the TV version of Jaws, probably when I was like 8 or 9, which was still pretty horrifying, and it's still like scared the shit out of me. And we grew up like on the Jersey Shore, so
Yes.
I was at the beach every fucking day for like my first 15 summers, So yeah, I didn't like want to go in the water after that movie.
I understand that. In Australia, I used to live on the eastern coast, where in the town I lived, we had 5 beaches. So
Yeah. And you guys have a lot of sharks in your waters down there. I mean, you guys have,
yeah, well,
right?
The Western Australia, the West Coast, they've got an area specifically where in certain times of year, the great white sharks show up to, basically they have sex and then they, and they hang around there. On the eastern coast, yeah, we do get a lot of sharks. We get more tiger sharks on the east coast. And unlike a great white shark, who they won't attack you outright unless unless it's Jaws.
Right.
the tiger shark, they're the most orneriest, aggro. They'll fuck you up just for they're like the wasp of the sea. They'll fuck you up just for the fun of it.
Right. Oh, brutal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But, we've got great. Okay, this is probably one of the most embarrassing stories to come from an Australian about being in the water. I think I was like maybe 10 years old. Okay, so about 20 odd years back, we went to a beach a little north of my hometown, and the beach was called 1 Mile Beach. And basically it was about the beach itself was basically a stretch of sand for 1 mile. We're all out in the water having fun, and all of a sudden this sound, I've never heard this sound before, starts blaring, and I'm standing in the water waist deep looking around like, what the hell is going on? Everyone is running out of the water. I'm like, what's going on? The sound's going all up and everyone's panicking. I look at the where the water breaks on the sand, and there's my family standing there counting heads. Mum, dad, my older brother and younger sister, and they're like, wait, they turn and they see me, and they're like, get the fuck out of the water, you dumbass. I'm like, what's going on? My dad had to come back, physically pick me up and take me out of the water. I'm like, what's going on? And they go, that's the shark alarm. There's a shark in the water, you idiot.
Oh my God. Yeah, man, that's scary. That's one of the scariest things ever. And I think Jaws is to blame for that. But yeah, eaten by a shark is something that I definitely don't want to happen to me ever. I don't really think I said I grew up on the Jersey Shore. I'm still kind of close to it. I'm about like 25 minutes from the ocean. But yeah, like I don't go to the beach anymore. I think it's because of that movie. But also because just I went there so much when I was a kid that it's like, it's a beach.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason to go to a beach is if you go to somewhere new and there's a new beach you've never been to.
Yeah. Or like if you're in Mexico and the beaches there are gorgeous.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been to the beach. I've been to Acapulco twice, and the beach there, it's amazing. But I hated it for one reason. In Australia, when you go to the beach, you get hit by the waves. You get 2-meter waves. You can go surfing. You can get dunked. It's great. And I'm not joking. The water in the surf in Acapulco, like that.
Yeah.
Completely flat and still. And I'm there like, well, this isn't fun.
That's not fun.
I can just I can be in the resort pool. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it's still probably more relaxing and more settling than being on the Jersey Shore beach, where the water's disgusting and the beach is disgusting, and all the people from New York are down taking up all the space on the beach, and they're disgusting. It's just like the beach is just, by me, is just disgusting. I don't know.
So when your son gets old enough, gonna take him to the beach so he can have the same opinion as dad?
Probably not. We've actually taken him to the beach a couple of times, like during the off months, like in the winter time, because he has autism, and so like we try to get him like exposed to as many different elements as possible.
Yeah.
And especially with like the texture of the sand and stuff, and that's pretty like therapeutic for him. So we've done that a few times, but to go to the beach like on a hot summer day, no interest in that anymore.
Well, if you ever get the chance to go to Australia, basically every day is that hot summer day. So basically every day you'll be good to go to the beach.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing about Australia. You go to the beach, then you go back home to the air conditioning and a fridge full of ice cold beer. It's perfect. It's perfect.
That is perfect. Yeah.
So, okay. Joshua Marcella, he sent a couple of questions in, and
Oh,
actually,
nice.
yeah, first time for the show as well.
Oh, wow. We have a
Oh, first. Yeah, and it had to be with you.
Do you ring a bell or something when the first happens on the show or something?
I can. I actually I do have a bell. Let me go get it.
I'm just kidding.
I've got a bell from the Haunted Mansion.
That's perfect.
So let me go get it, and we can ring the bell.
All right.
No, he asks. Okay, speaking about your son. Okay, and
yeah.
He asks, how do you juggle family time with writing? Because you seem to be constantly putting something out. And
yeah, it's tough, man. I wish I had like a solid answer. I mean, I guess I do have a solid answer. So I mean, I also work a full-time job. So usually what'll happen is I'll wake up really early in the morning, like at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I will work out a little bit, and then I will get right into writing for a couple of hours before I have to go do the day job stuff. And lucky enough to where I work from home now since the whole pandemic thing happened. And so I'm lucky in that regard because I can kind of, if it's slow, like, write.
Yep.
So I'm able to do that. And then, after work, hang out with the family and do family stuff on days off. I tend to stick to the same thing, and I'll wake up early before everybody else is up, get a few hours in, and the rest of the day is pretty much like family time or just hanging out and doing stuff around the house, whatever chores need to be done, and stuff with Jack if he has therapy or whatever.
Yep.
I'm able to take care of all that. I also am pretty lucky. I get like 4 weeks vacation at my job, so that's like a whole month off a year.
That's nice.
So yeah, I mean, vacations are huge because I don't go anywhere ever. We're not like vacationer people. So we basically just have staycations where we just stay home. And yeah, I can write then. My wife owns her own like wedding photography and videography business. So when she works a lot of like Friday and Saturday nights, and when she's doing weddings, and Jack's sleeping, I can get in some words there.
Yep.
I look for little opportunities when either he's occupied or he's doing something with mom. I can sneak in some words. I just try to take every available opportunity I have to get words in. And those little bursts, even if you get like an hour a day to just write, whatever that is, it's accumulating towards a total word count that you're going to be looking at one day and be like, wow, I can't believe I wrote 90,000 words over these past 3 months. It doesn't feel like I did that. And then yeah, that's it. I mean, that's kind of, it's not like a big secret. It's just try to find time to write when nothing else is going on.
Yep.
But writing's secondary to everything else. Obviously the family stuff is more important. So
that was it.
I was going to add I was going to add also brain fart. I was going to add it's just secondary to family and work, and so as long as those things are taken care of, then the writing time is there.
Yep. And I mean, do you dictate your books, or do you still keyboard it?
Oh, I don't dictate.
I
can't do that. I don't have the technology to do that. I don't even know how I would do that. I think there's like a program that does that, right? Like Dragon or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got Dragon Dictation. You've also got like in Google Docs, they've got the ability to do it.
Really?
Yeah. I've got Dragon, and I do play around with it, but then I kind of get to a point where I get bored with trying to tell a story. So I just start saying random weird shit and seeing if I can get it to type it properly. Spanish swear words. Having a dictation program try to figure out a Spanish swear word, that's real fun.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I've never. I guess like if I ever get like arthritis or if something ever happens, I have that as a backup. But yeah, like I don't know if I could do that
Yeah.
I used to, like, early on, used to have a tape recorder, and I used to try to do that, or like at least if I had an idea, I would just like start talking into the tape recorder and like play it back later. But like you said, like I just like when I'm thinking about speaking stuff, like I don't know, it messes me up. So
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just like in front of the computer typing, and then like let my brain and my fingers like communicate with each other.
Yep.
And like my brain is telling the story, but like my fingers are doing all the work, and I think that's kind of like I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like last time I played around dictation, I got to a point where I was doing it, and then my phone rang, and I forgot to stop Dragon from recording everything. So it actually, all of a sudden, I'm writing about some horrible monsters tearing someone apart. Then all of a sudden, there's this full-on phone call.
Oh god, yeah,
You
that's
know,
great. I've also heard like you have to dictate periods and
yeah,
spaces and stuff, and like that would drive me insane. Like I
yeah.
don't.
That's the hardest part for me, because once I start going, and when I get to a point where I've got my rhythm, I've forgotten dictation, and then the punctuation, and then when I sit down and go to do the edit, it's like, you fucking retard. Like, saying that to myself, it's
Yeah,
um
yeah, no, it's doesn't sound like fun.
yeah. For those who can do it, good on them.
Yeah.
So another question from Joshua.
Mhm.
What was the first story you ever published?
That's a good question. So the first novel I did was a book called Enlightenment, which ended up being the first book in a series of 3, a trilogy.
Generally, that's what a series of 3 turns into.
That is a trilogy, correct? Yep. Um, so yeah, that was the first book I published. That was in 2012. It took me like 5 years to write that book because it was the first book that I had a few trunk novels that
Mhm.
like I never really finished. This was the first one I ever really finished. And it was big. It was like 160,000 words, I think it ended up being.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really huge, which when it came to trying to sell it to like even a small press publisher, nobody wanted it because it was so big. And I had never published anything before. I was virtually a no name. So I got a lot of passes on it, but I entered it in a Journal Stone. They had they used to have a contest, a horror novel writing contest, and in 2012 I entered it, and the top 3 books got publishing deals, and I don't know how many entered. I think they said they needed at least like 25 manuscripts for the competition to be valid, and mine finished 9th.
Oh, not bad.
So
Not bad.
yeah, no, not bad. It was excellent, and my wife and I always joke. We're like, they probably got 10 manuscripts. That's probably all they got because they did a top 10, and mine finished 9th, and that was always like a running joke because like they probably only got 10, but then decided to put it out anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't good enough to get a contract with Journal Stone, but it gave me like a big confidence boost because I knew I had something, and I knew that it was at least good enough to finish in the top 10. So self-publishing was super big at the time, so I decided to get it edited, and I got a cover for it, and we just decided to put it out myself, and surprisingly people bought it. And then so that was the first novel that I published. The first story sale I got was probably right around the same time in 2012. I wrote a short story called The Dream Eaters, which is available in my first collection, Worlds Between My Teeth. You can find that story in there. And that was like my first sale. It was published in Sanitarium magazine. I forget the month. I think it was like issue 3 of Sanitarium magazine. I don't even think they're a magazine anymore. I'm not sure. They might have gone under. And at the time, I don't even know I don't honestly remember what it paid. I don't know if it was like $10 per story or something. It was either no money or like
A token
10
amount.
bucks. Yeah. So it wasn't much, but again, it was something that like boosted my confidence. Like, wow, people actually want to put this work out there. So again, like those two things that kind of happened at around the same time was kind of like the confidence boost that I needed. I feel like if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would have just like, I still probably would be writing, but I wouldn't be like actively as active as I am right now,
Yep.
and as prolific, I guess you could say, as I am right now.
And as famous as you are.
Not famous, man. Not famous.
There's that self-hatred. I mean, and none of us do it to be famous. That's the thing. This is not,
I just have fun. If I never see another dollar from writing, I could care less. I just like telling stories, and I like making people happy, and that's all I want to do.
So, okay, I have this thing called the rule of fun, which is if I'm having fun with whatever I'm doing, whether it's this interview, writing, or doing the day job, if I'm having fun, I can tell, it's obvious that whoever I'm talking to, whoever's reading or I'm teaching, they're going to have fun too. Do you
Hopefully.
Well, I mean, well, yeah, true. Hopefully. You just poked a big hole in that rule.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. They're always having fun with you.
Don't be the exception that proves the rule. But I mean, do you you said that you're just, if you don't make money, but you're happy to continue making people happy with your books and your stories. So I gather you have something similar. Then you have fun while you're writing.
Oh yeah, totally. I love what I do. I love telling stories. I love making up characters and putting them in situations and seeing how they work out of them. But yeah, I mean, it's fun for me. I've always enjoyed storytelling. I can remember going back to like second and third grade, I would write like little cartoons and stuff, and it was like they were like little 3-page comics with like 9 blocks, and like it was all like stick figure cartoons. But it was just like a simple way to like tell stories, and that's kind of just how I started out. And I think in 4th grade, we had a project. You'll like this as a Severed Press fan. We had a project to write a novel, which was I think it had to be like 10 pages, and each page had to be like half text and then half of like a picture that you drew for that scene or whatever. So I, of course, wrote about me and my friends, and we crash landed on an island that was infested with dinosaurs naturally. And like, I just remember drawing like the most grotesque and violent death scenes, like for all the characters, all my friends that were getting eaten by there was like half-eaten people like hanging out of dinosaurs' mouth. And this is the 4th grade. I feel like nowadays I would probably have been sent to like some psychiatric evaluation, but back then my teacher was like super encouraging. She's like, "This is very creative." I'm like, "Thanks." So like, yeah, I don't know. My dad helped me do it too, so it was probably his fault. If I wonder if he got in trouble. I don't even know if they talked to him or anything about it.
But that's what parents are for. Especially fathers are there to do that, to lead us down that path that can either destroy us, or make us great.
Yeah, I have to say, man, my parents were pretty supportive too. I mean, they've always encouraged us to be to like follow our dreams and be artistic. My dad was always there to help me with projects like that. My mom, and really, she like made me a reader growing up. She would take us in the summertime to the library like every week, and we would check out like 2 or 3 books. And even if we didn't want to, even if we wanted to play like Super Nintendo all week, she would like make us read stuff, but she would let us pick out stuff that we wanted to read. She wouldn't like force us to read stuff. And for some reason, she would censor films that we watched, but she would let me read like Peter Benchley novels and like Michael Crichton novels. And I don't know if she just didn't like have time to like comb through the content of the book, and she just like read the back flap. I'm like, yeah, you could read this book about a giant killer squid that attacks a small town in Maine, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of how like I became a big reader. And of course, like the Goosebumps books growing up too. So.
Oh yeah, the Goosebumps were my same, they're massive in Australia, so that was my entryway into horror, was Goosebumps. And then those inappropriate 80s children movies like The Witches and Return to Oz.
Yeah.
And my dad was a magician, so that also helped to scar me for life.
Oh, jeez. That's a pretty cool job, though.
Oh yeah. But I mean, okay, so I forgot what I was about to ask. Damn it.
The whole magician thing just threw you off track.
Yeah, actually, anytime I talk about that sort of stuff, it does throw me for a loop because I say, because for me, growing up with that, it was just natural for me. My dad would, guys, I want to practice a new trick. I'm used to that. Yeah. So for me, it's just dad. When I tell someone their reaction, oh, that's really cool, I can't go, no, it's just, oh no, actually, yeah, you're right. It is,
This is kind of cool. I mean, I don't think I've ever met somebody who's like, oh, my dad was a magician. I'd never had that experience before. So
not only was he a magician, he was a carny as well.
Oh wow.
Yep. And a stage actor.
That's awesome.
And then for about 20 odd years he was a teacher, science. And yeah, same thing. Like my parents were very encouraging for me. My dad very encouraging with the creativity and all that. And mum, same thing, reader. That's what I was going to say. With your mum censoring movies and not books, maybe she couldn't censor the books because they were from the library.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly think she was just happy that we were reading, and like it felt like she was doing a good job or something as a mom. I don't know. I don't really know why. But I can't remember a time where I brought her a book and she said no. But like movies, it was like, oh, Mom, can I watch Die Hard? And she's like, no, you can't watch Die Hard. You're 7 years old. What's wrong with you?
Oh, see.
But then I'd go to my dad and be like, Dad, can I watch Die Hard? And he'd be like, hell yeah, you can watch Die Hard. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Our fathers are there to lead us down that path.
Exactly.
I mean, look, my parents both couldn't wait until I was old enough to watch the Tim Curry version of it.
Dude, so when that came on TV, I mean, it was 90, I think, but it was always on TV, I felt like. So probably when I was about like 10, my brother, who's 4 years younger than me, we were watching it one day, and my dad was watching us. And I don't remember if my parents were divorced at that point. They might have still been together. Anyway, we're watching it, and there's the scene where he comes out of the shower.
Oh,
thing. Yeah. So like, my brother was like terrified of that scene, and like later on that night, when my dad was giving him a bath or a shower or something, like I'm in my room and all I hear is like this like Wilhelm scream from the bathroom, and like we go running in there, and he's like, there's a clown coming out of the drain, and we're like, you mope.
I'll admit, okay, I saw it, and I'm not joking, and my parents will vouch for this because they think it's bloody hilarious. Watch it for the first time when on VHS. It was on VHS tape. So watched it, and for the next 2 weeks it rained every single day.
But you didn't go near the storm drains.
I didn't want to go near any drain. I didn't want to go near, and I was having nightmares and all that. But the thing was, after watching it for the very first time, I couldn't sleep. My older brother couldn't sleep.
Oh.
So what I did was I did the smart thing. I watched the original Paul Verhoeven RoboCop because I needed blood and guts to.
I just watched that.
Director's cut
yesterday. No, just the regular one that was on Prime.
See, that's a good body horror movie. You could take that and turn it into a really good horror story.
Yeah, it's I was surprised. Like I haven't watched it in a while, and I was like, man, this is a lot brutal. It's still ridiculous. It's like a ridiculous movie. It's so absurd, but it's also super violent and awesome. Like you said, body horror. Yeah, it's still awesome.
Oh yeah, but I mean, come on, the best Paul Verhoeven movies are completely over the top. Total Recall.
Yeah.
Starship Troopers.
Yep. I just watched Starship Troopers the other night too.
There you go. Showgirls. That's a different kind of horror.
Yeah.
So Josh has two last questions for you.
Yep.
Do you like pineapple on your pizza?
No, I don't. But I like I like pizzas because you can do a lot with them. I don't, if you like pineapple in your pizza, I'm not like one of those people who are like never let you in my house type of situation.
Because I'm one of those weirdos.
Yeah. No, I mean, if that's what you like, that's what you like. I don't care. I do like pizza because you can do so much with it. Like, you can put whatever you want on it. Like, there's this place by me that does shrimp scampi pizza.
Oh wow!
It's incredible. Yeah, it sounds disgusting,
Just
but
a bit.
it's incredible. It's so good. It tastes so good. But yeah, I mean, I pineapple on pizza, I've just never been into it. I don't know if it's like a texture thing, because like I'm not a big pineapple person to begin with. Like the actual fruit, like I'm not sure how that texture would taste with the pizza and the cheese, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's good. I can't even say that I've had it, so I don't know if I like it or not.
Well, I think that's.
But
the
I'm
thing.
gonna go with no. I'm gonna go with no.
That's fair enough. But I love pineapple, so I think if you do like pineapple in general, you do like it on pizza. And if you don't like pineapple, no one can convince you either way.
Right.
Okay. And his final question for you: what's it like being a final guy?
It's great, man. I love being on that podcast. Those guys are hilarious. I mean, I came on as a guest one week to promote, I think when Dead Daughters came out, like back in April. I came on to promote it, and we talked about From Beyond, which is like one of my favorite, horror movies of all time. And anytime I can talk about that movie in great length, with people who are like-minded, like myself, it's going to be a good time. So I think after that, they were like, "Hey, man, I know you're," because at that point I wasn't working. We had got sent home for COVID, and I was just doing nothing for like 3 months. I was writing a lot, but I wasn't really doing much. And they're like, "Hey, if you just want to keep coming on just until you have to like go back to work or whatever, feel free." And so I did, and I just kept coming on. And then one day they're like, "You're a part of the show now. Like, you can't leave." So I'm like, "All right, I guess that's the thing. That's the thing that happened." But yeah, I mean, those guys are great. They're really good friends. I've hung out with all of them in real life. We've actually all met at various like book signings and conventions. So yeah, man, I love it. I like being a podcast host and talking about my favorite subject every week. So
There's worse ways to make a living.
yeah, exactly. Even though we don't make any money from it.
Maybe one day. As we said earlier, this is not a job where you're in it for the money.
Not at all. Nope. I said nope, not at all.
Yeah. And if you are in it for the money, then you're crazy.
Yeah.
Or very, very lucky.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, what can we expect from you for 2021?
2021, I got well, like we talked at the top of this show, I have a Paradise Club that just came out through Grindhouse Press. They're on my beer glass.
Oh, nice.
Which they're awesome. I love them. So that's out now. It's available everywhere books are sold, probably. I don't know if that's accurate, but it sounds right.
Generally.
Then in June, I have a really big novel coming out. It's almost 200,000 words. So
whoa.
Yeah, it's big. It's a big coming of age small town horror novel in the vein of like It and Robert McCammon's A Boy's Life.
Okay.
In that vein. It's called Malignant Summer.
Good title.
Thanks. Yeah, pre-order just went up from that. That's coming out through Silver Shamrock, and that's it's about a group of kids who live in this town where the local chemical plant is causing a lot of people to get cancer. And there may or may not be a supernatural force involved in that, and they kind of set out to stop it. So yeah, I'm super proud of that book. It's the backdrop of it with the chemical plant and the cancer is actually something that kind of happened in real life in my hometown of Toms River, New Jersey, and like when I was growing up. So It's kind of like that's like the background of it, but kind of like a personal story. And of course, it's coming of age. So I mean, there's those characters. There's bits of me spread throughout all of them. So yeah, so it's super big and it's super cool, and I hope a lot of people check it out because I'm really proud of it.
I'll put the pre-order link in the description.
Cool.
And where can the 5 or 6 viewers of this find you?
Well, all 5 or 6 of you can always go to timmeyerwrites.com. That's my blog website. Though I don't keep up with it, I'm awful at updating it and like doing blog posts. So you can go there to just click around. I do have like a ton of author interviews on there, like you're on there, and a bunch of other really cool authors. So you can check those out. And I also have signed books you can buy through the store on that website too. So if anybody wants a signed book.
If you're from Mexico, it's going to be a problem.
Dude, I know. Yeah, that was so weird. They sent those books I tried to send to you, and they sent them back. And I just found them the other day. Actually, they were in my wife's car. She was the one to pick them up, and I totally forgot about it. And I found this package. I was like, Mexico, what is this?
Well, I'm going to be moving back to Australia. It's easier to send things to Australia than it is here. So
which is weird because Australia is very far away.
But the problem is, if living here in Mexico, I learned something. If you don't send anything by DHL or FedEx, which they actually do deliver it, with the regular Mexican Post, they have this mentality of, if the address is too hard to find, if the address is awkward to find, if they're feeling lazy, they will not deliver it.
Wow.
And they will not leave a note saying we tried to deliver.
Oh man, yeah, it was weird. I sent stuff to Mexico before though, and I've never had a problem through like the regular U.S. Post. But I don't know.
Well, the problem is where I moved recently. Well, not recently. I moved at the beginning of last year. And where I used to live, it was that case of you didn't know the address. If you'd never been there before, finding the house was like basically going on a coming of age adventure.
It's like a Scooby-Doo mystery just to find your house.
Yeah. Now I'm living in an apartment, and I think it's going to be easier. But I'm like, anytime I've like publishers saying, "Oh, we'll send you a book," I'm like, "Yeah, send it to Australia."
Yeah, I'll get it when I get there. Well, yeah, man, that's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I'm when I'm back there, I'll let you know, and I'll we'll organize it properly before.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, yes. Definitely.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter. That's like where you'll find me the most. Twitter or Instagram. I'm not really on Facebook anymore. So yeah, I mean, Twitter, Tim Meyer, I'm sure I'll pop up somewhere.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm like one of the first couple of.
Well, when I did my Twitter post announcing to the world that I was doing this with you today, I started at Tim, and they came up instantly, Tim Meyer. So
sweet.
Yeah. So thank you very much, sir, for being on this rambling show.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
And look, when Malignant Summer, is that what it's called? Yep. Mm-hmm. When that comes out, I'm happy to have you back on so you can talk about it, and
I'll be here.
All right, awesome.
I'll be here with beer.